I want to welcome everyone to our Berks County Commissioners Weekly Update. The topic for this week's program is the CARES Act Community Needs Assessment. And this program today is going to be led by the Vice Chair of our Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Kevin Barnhart. Before we go into the presentation, I do want to note that if you have public comments or questions today must be germane to the topic being discussed, and you must include your full name and municipality where you reside. If you're from the media, and you're limited to one question. If you're from the media, please give us your name and the media you represent. And of course, with the media, you may ask multiple questions. I just want to remind everyone that this Friday, Berks County will be going to the green phase. There are limits still in place under green. If you wanted to see what those limits are, you can simply Google Pennsylvania COVID-19 phases, and it will take you to a website for the governor, and it lists the requirements that are still in place under green. As commissioners, though, we especially want to emphasize that going green does not mean that everything's fine when it comes to COVID-19. We're seeing some serious spikes in other parts of the country, places like Phoenix, Houston, multiple cities in Florida, Charlotte, and even just today, New York State, New Jersey, and Connecticut have announced some restrictions in areas that have become resurgent hotspots. So please take the time to protect yourself, to protect your family, and when you go out in public, wear a mask, do and respect social distancing, wash your hands when you leave a public setting. If you don't have soap and water, use hand sanitizer. And even in the hand sanitizer, I give the warning, make sure it is one of the CDC approved hand sanitizers. Apparently, there are several hand sanitizers on the market today that can go through your skin and make a person ill. If you want to look that up, check the CDC has information on that. But going green is Berks County. Let's do it responsibly and safely. With that, I'm going to turn the program over to my colleague, Commissioner Michael Rivera, for some comments on the small business loan program. Commissioner Rivera.
Yes, thank you very much, Commissioner Leinbach. And I want to thank the guest on this show today for bringing this such important information to us. And going to the small business loan program we had, that has been changed now to a small business grant program. And that's based on the needs that we have seen in our community, the small businesses, what they have been telling us, what we have been hearing from them. And there will be more information coming out on that tomorrow afternoon. So please visit the website, doyourpartberks.com, or the Neighborhood Housing Services website for more information there. It'll be basically the same criteria as it was for the loan, but instead of being a 50% forgivable loan, it will be a full grant. The revenue amount per business has increased to allow it for more businesses to be able to apply and qualify for this grant. Again, it's not a first come, first served grant, but it will be a competitive grant. You will go in, you'll put in the application. Then there's certain criteria which you will be scored on to determine who will get that money. And there's a total of $1.8 million available for those grants in the amount of $2,500 to $10,000, and that will be based on the company's revenue. So please share this information with small businesses. Something else we're looking at doing is with the CARES Act money, we will also be setting aside pool of money. We're not sure yet what amount that will be, but that will also be to help out small businesses as well. So, and that will have the criteria for that will be a little bit broader. It'll include more than 8 employees and sole proprietors as well. So if for some reason you do not qualify for the small business grant program that we have in place now, keep your eyes out for more information on the CARES Act Money Small Business Grant for more information on that. There's also a third pool of money which is being offered by the Pennsylvania DCED, Department of Community and Economic Development. And for more information on that one, you can go to Community First Fund's website and they will have more information on that. So there's different resources out there for small businesses. We want to make sure that we're able to help as many small businesses as possible because we understand the importance that small businesses play in our economy and in the vitality and development of our different regions throughout the county. So please help us share this information. Again, for more information, doyourpartberks.com or Neighborhood Housing Services of Greater Reading. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera, and thank you for taking the lead on working with our small businesses, working with the Chamber Alliance, and also with the folks at DCED and Community First Fund. I want to reiterate, if you have comments, they need to be germane to today's topic. And I want to recognize we have 18 people right now joining us on Microsoft Teams Live. We have 12 people on Facebook Live and 4 people on YouTube Live. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, please feel free to use the comment tool on those platforms. We have folks that are monitoring that, and they will make sure that your questions or comments that are germane to the topic reach us so that we can address those. I'm going to turn the remainder of the program over to my colleague, Commissioner Kevin Barnhart. I also want to acknowledge his effort. He has been working as the commissioner point person on the CARES money and is responsible for putting today's program together. Commissioner Kevin Barnhart.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach and Commissioner Rivera and everyone who has joined us today. Hope this is a great dialogue, a very open and honest and transparent process. I'm also joined by our friends at Witt O'Brien's, Steve Carewer and Matt Burchell, who have been working with us over about the past month as our emergency management advisory services when it comes to grants for the CARES Act. And I think the theme for today is it takes a village. It takes a village to get us through this COVID-19, and we're all in this together, but also takes a village to understand the enormity of the expenses that have been incurred during COVID-19. And we're here to do the best we can to either support you financially through the CARES Act allocation the county will be receiving, or through various other grant opportunities that are out there for you to take advantage of. So thank you so much for your participation today. I do want to thank Ron Seaman, our Chief Administrative Officer. He basically put together the DCED grant that we had to apply for the $38 million. Did a heck of a job. I know he's had an extensive background in that, and I think it passed with flying colors. We anticipate receiving the money before July 15th. We also engaged Pam Shook from the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance and Ken Pick from our Community Development Office, who have extensive background in DCED grants. Jesse Blauser, my executive assistant, and Jill Koharchik from our solicitor's office, who was on loan to help us go through the CARES Act community assessment, needs assessment, and determine follow-up questions and information. Also, Brian Gottschall, our Director of Emergency Services, put a lot of time and effort into this. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention our IT staff and the people that put this together for us each and every day, and especially Justin Luce. I think he spent the last 2 weekends perfecting the community needs assessment. And last but not least, our Board of Commissioners, who have been very supportive, not just on the business piece of the CARES Act funding, but also this part as well, which is going to hopefully do a lot of good in our community. And we also, before we get into the assessment, we sent out a sample of the assessment to a group of about 28 community leaders in Berks County. and we received a lot of good feedback. We wanted a different set of eyes on the assessment, and we got a lot of good feedback, which kept Justin up a lot, making changes. But I think it's a great product that's going to be coming out on Monday. So let me review the CARES Act allocation to Berks County just to allay any questions or concerns people might have. The state received nearly $5 billion directly from Washington about 2 months ago, and the state allocated $625 million of that money to the remaining 60 counties, which did not receive a direct allocation. So the 7 largest counties in Pennsylvania, those over 500,000, received a direct allocation. The split between 625 and 4 billion, as many see, I think every day we get a new message and email. Money's going to nursing homes, hospitals, loans to businesses, grants for autism, for daycares, for substance use disorder, dairy farmers, and the list goes on and on and on. Not begrudging those organizations, but I think they've made it extremely complicated and confusing when you can read an email and you can read 2 or 3 different emails and think you should apply for 1, 2, 3, or all of those sort of grants or loans. So I think they made it a little confusing. So we were not a direct allocation county like Lancaster. Lancaster received $95 million, Chester $91 million, Delaware County $98 million, and Montgomery County $144 million based primarily on population. We intend to receive about $38 million, and part of this community needs assessment is to really prove the case that we have been underfunded when it comes to CARES Act reimbursement. So we, as I said, we submitted an application, DCD. We expect to receive that allocation on or before July 15th. And we engaged with O'Brien as a cost recovery and emergency management advisory service. They do assessment and planning, decision-making, application, funding, and program implementation, support, compliance, monitoring, and reporting. Berks has agreed, thank you, Commissioner Leinbach and Rivera, to not take the $200,000 for grant administration, but we believe that should be put back into the community. So of the $38 million, the county could have taken $200,000 for the administration of the grant. We chose to use that money out in the community. So Whit O'Brien has the expertise and bandwidth to support this very report-intense effort. Documentation and justification are keys. We shouldn't focus on the easy money or, hey, that looks like an easy way to get money, but often neglect the more lucrative and difficult monies, which is a real strength that Whit O'Brien brings to the table. So why do we need a community needs assessment? Quite honestly, it shouldn't be an arbitrary decision for the Board of Commissioners to dole out money to the community. This is a significant amount of money. The county is not permitted, and neither are the municipalities, to use this to augment any lost tax revenue, but we are going to be using some of this for our contact tracing effort, for PPE purchase, which may not be covered completely by FEMA, but we have made application to FEMA for PPE purchase, but this could be for numerous other items that are not covered. For example, we have gone to PCCD, Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, for monies for the courts, the sheriff, and the jail for PPE and for plexiglass. There are 2 $213,000 grants going through PCCD, and we're trying to make sure we preserve as much of this CARES Act money as possible. We're using some of the money for Greater Reading Chamber Alliance, rebuilding Berks' communication strategy, and the Buy Local effort, Connect Local with supply chains in Berks County, and also the Greater Chamber Alliance business training and support, best practices to reopen your business. So we have earmarked a small amount of this money for the county, but again, the balance of this money is really for the needs of the community. There are several categories that you'll deal with in the assessment. Government assistance, that's municipal or public authorities. Public health assessment, hospitals and healthcare providers. Social service, meaning not-for-profits that provide a social service. Educational, K-12 or higher ed and other educators. Business and other entities, business and entities that do not fit in any other category. The process is we have to capture the expenditures from March through June and then estimate from June through December, because the actual disbursement of the money and the use of the money has to occur before December 30th of 2020. When you go on to the assessment, which will go live on Monday, which Justin's going to touch on in a few minutes, there are many acronyms in there. Please don't get overwhelmed or confused. We want you to do the best you can, filling out the assessment. The more information, the better, the less we have to circle back and ask questions. Things like SBA, Small Business Administration, SAM's System for Awards Management, it's a federal contractor, DUNS number, Dun and Bradstreet credit report, HHS, that deals with the CDC and provider relief funds, SSBG, social service block grants, CDBG money, which is generally going to community development offices and redevelopment authorities, and FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. If you stumble across these acronyms and have no idea what they are, they probably don't relate to your organization. If you have received FEMA money in the past as a municipality, you're familiar with FEMA. If you've received money through SBA as a small business, you understand what SBA is. If you have any further information as you fill out the assessment, we have put in a lot of blocks for additional information. We are very interactive. We're not going to simply take these assessments and put them into a database. We're going to be engaging you probably soon after we receive these assessments to get this money moving forward. So how's the money to be distributed? As the assessments arrive, we will respond with questions and also review them with Whit O'Brien's. We're trying to turn this process fairly quickly. A formal grant portal will follow. We must justify and verify the actual expenditures, again, March to June and then July to December estimated. We will make as many contacts as possible. And as is going to be pointed out many times, the questions also can go to communityneeds@countyofberks.com. Again, do the best you can. We're interested in assisting in the best manner possible. The more complete the assessment, the less follow-up questions. And now, as part of this effort, I want to turn this over to Steve or Matt from Whit O'Brien to discuss other CARES Act funding sources and non-CARES Act grants. Steve?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
I think that Matt Urchel is on as well.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. The CARES Act was an abnormal allocation of funding because it actually gave money to a number of different federal agencies who then are sharing it with a number of regional resources focused on individual assistance programs, but also a number of business support programs and social services support programs. So as the CARES Act money has been found its way down the waterfall to some of these regional-based organizations, many of them, like Berks County with their CARES Act funding, are actually starting to stand up recovery programs focused on COVID-19 response. So I want to highlight a couple of them. The state itself actually received a good portion of the CARES Act funding, as Commissioner Barnhart actually mentioned, and the state itself is going to be standing up a number of initiatives in the next couple of months that will be focused on individuals for assistance such as housing support programs, rental assistance programs, but also for small business programs and even some municipal technology initiatives. So we'll want to keep a very close eye on the state programs as they are actually ready to launch. And then the county itself will push out materials on how to actually apply for those programs. Otherwise, the PPP and economic injury disaster loans from SBA, those programs have received some material modification just in the last few weeks. And so previously the performance period for the paycheck protection loan was an 8-week period, and now you actually have 24 weeks to utilize that money. And there will also likely be some changes to the EIDL flexibility as well. But the EIDL loan program has opened up for an additional round of funding. Looking beyond the CARES Act, I think it's important for us all to keep an eye on what additional supplemental appropriations may come from Congress in the next 5 to 6 weeks, and what sort of grant opportunities may be available for them as well. We're going to be working very closely with the commissioners to package up materials and make them readily available on the website for not just individuals, but also small businesses and community-based organizations within the county to access what grant opportunities are out there. And Commissioner, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Matt. Just to emphasize that although you're going to fill out this assessment and it may direct you to our CARES Act allocation, it also might quite possibly lead you in another direction with the support of Whit O'Brien to lead us into those grants.gov. There's about 1,000 grant opportunities out there, and I believe there's hundreds relating to the CARES Act. And I said several times a day, more CARES Act allocations keep popping up. So that's why we want this community needs assessment, so we can gather this data and send you to the right place and get the help that you need. Now I would like to turn it over to Justin Luce on a high-level overview of the community needs assessment, which will include an introductory video and a 2-week window to complete the assessment. Justin, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Our methodology for getting this assessment out to the public was to try to find a way where we could very quickly get the information that we need for the analysis of eligibility for CARES Act funding. So we started by not reinventing the wheel. We leveraged a survey that had already been done by Sedgwick County, Kansas, very successfully. They had released this survey to the public with many similar questions to the ones on our assessment. And so we borrowed from that, and we tried to take the ideas that worked and modify the language to meet the needs of the Berks County community, and make that available very quickly so that we could start the analysis process. I have one slide to show you, and that's just the first page of the assessment. The first page of the assessment is going to start by giving some brief overview, some words from the commissioners that kind of introduce the methodology for the funding. And then there's also a button there that will ask several questions about completing the survey. So it starts by saying, I am a municipality or public authority. I provide public health services. I am a not-for-profit that provides social services. I provide educational services, or I am a business or other service provider. And that's a way to help people get to the right assessment. There are 5 different assessments with different questions. And so, choosing from that list should help you get to the assessment that most meets your needs. If you pick the wrong assessment, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. Like the commissioner indicated, this is not a once and done process where once you hit submit, you can't go back and change that information. This is the start of a dialogue. So what we're trying to do is get as much information as possible to expedite the process. Each assessment is anywhere between 60 and 70 questions. So it is a bit lengthy, but a good part of that is just capturing contact information and basic information about the organization. In the assessment themselves, there are only a few required fields. So the only thing that you have to submit, or that you have to enter in order to submit the assessment, includes the organization name and basic contact information, an email and phone number. In theory, you could submit those fields and leave every other field blank. We don't want you to do that. But if you have problems entering the questions, we'd much prefer that you submit an assessment that's missing information than choose to not submit it at all. And again, this is not designed to be an exercise in technology. This is really designed to try to find the easiest way to get that information from you and the community to us here at the county for analysis. The other thing I wanted to highlight that the commissioner also mentioned is this community needs at countyofberks.com email address. That's going to be monitored as you look at the assessment. If you have any questions, you can feel free to send an email to that email address, and we can provide you some guidance with getting that submitted. Also on the assessment, each assessment after you pick from the initial drop down the assessment that most meets your organization, you can click the button to download a printable copy of the assessment, and that is the full assessment on paper. because the technology here is simple and it's designed to be easy, there's no login or authentication. There's no way to save an assessment that's in process. So you have to complete the entire assessment in order to submit it. So for that reason, we have the printable copy. You can download that. You could fill that out on paper and then go back to the online assessment and just kind of enter in every field. If you have any kind of problems with the technology, you can also scan in a copy of that printable survey with your answers kind of filled out and email that to that email address, communityneeds@countyberks.com. Like the commissioner mentioned, there's going to be detailed instructions that kind of give you some guidance for how to fill out each box. We've revised those instructions based on the feedback that we got from the pilot group. Again, a thank you to those people that took some time to look at the first version of the assessment tool and have provided some very meaningful feedback to help make it easier for those that are going to be filling it out. Also, there's a comments box on every page of the assessment, and that is a way for you to dialogue with the folks that are reviewing the answers. So if you filled out a box on the assessment, but you're not sure that you filled it out properly, or you had some questions on what should go in there, you can use that comments box at the bottom of every page. And type in anything that you had questions about or any kind of comments, anything that wasn't clear, and that'll cue the assessors back at the county to reach out to you, get clarification, and make sure that we update the records with the most appropriate information. And that pretty much covers the technology. Anything else in depth is going to be released on the site as we update the instructions and release the instructions along with the video for the Monday release. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. So going back to some of the uses, so the people that are on here, and hopefully the news media picks up on this when we push this out, it's offsetting the cost of direct county response planning and outreach efforts. That would be our marketing and promotion, our contact tracing, things like that would fall under the county category. Purchase of personal protective equipment, PPE, in response to the pandemic, which would more than likely be everyone out there in the community. Those municipal entities specifically have probably tried to get on the FEMA portal. That is your first opportunity because that's unlimited amount of monies. We don't want you to apply to us and not apply to FEMA for PPE reimbursement. Administration of the grant by the county, which I had mentioned in the beginning, we are going to be rolling that back into the fund. Small business grant programs to support businesses with fewer than 100 employees that did not receive funding through federal PPP or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program established under the CARES Act. So there's still another opportunity for small business. Grants programs to support entities for costs related to assisting businesses during the COVID-19 disaster. Assist municipalities for response and planning efforts, including purchase of PPE. Behavioral health and substance use disorder treatment services. Nonprofit assistance programs for 501c3s and 501c19 organizations, which are veterans-related organizations. Broadband deployment with priority given to unserved or underserved areas. One of the things you want to keep in mind that is not eligible is lost revenue. So it's called revenue replacement. So if you anticipated that you were going to be making money, this is more to replenish for extenuating costs related to COVID-19. It's really what this is for. So we are here. We're accessible. We want this survey to go out starting this assessment starting Monday for a 2-week period of time. So Monday is the 29th. It will be active till at least July 13th, the following Monday. We're asking for the 2 weeks because we really want to capture the enormity of what's needed in the community before we receive the $38 million, and we realize that it's just not enough. We want to see, by whatever method necessary, whether it's our CARES Act allocation or other CARES Act funding mechanisms, that you receive the right instructions and the right application to follow through. And again, that's why we have Whit O'Brien by our side for this. This help us make the case for the community, because we know $38 million doesn't go very far. And those of you who are listening, we want you to push this out to everyone that you know in your provider community fits in any of these categories. Empty your Rolodex if you still have one. If you are a provider of substance use disorder treatment and you know other providers, or you're in the mental health, developmental disabilities and you know of providers, if you are an affiliation of United Way, but you know that there are community organizations that provide social service that are not members of United Way, get this information out to them. This will be on our website starting Monday. And again, focusing on the fact that it is fairly lengthy, but there are a lot of questions we need to have answered. Print a hard copy as a workbook. Make sure you go through that, fill it out, and then get online and put it in. We're going to be looking at these each and every time they come in. On this Friday, we're going to have a FEMA for municipalities interactive discussion through the Center for Excellence in Local Government at 1 p.m. on a Zoom call. So those who are online today as a municipality or an authority, if you want to contact Paul Jansen to get hooked up on the Zoom call for 1 p.m. Friday, that would include Brian Gottschall, Director of Emergency Services, and myself. Again, this is an assessment, not an application. There will be a grant portal to follow. 2-week window of opportunity. We will keep it open after, but we really want to hear feedback within that 2-week window, because that money is going to arrive here and we want to get it out in the hands of the people that truly need it. Share this with others in Berks County, but it's only for Berks County. Again, this allocation is only for Berks County based entities and businesses. And again, complete it as best as humanly possible. The first couple of questions are the most critical ones: who you are, your email, your contact, what organization you're associated with. Some of the other ones, if you don't know the answer, just fill in, I don't know the answer. I don't think that pertains to me. Our goal here in doing this is to capture what is missing and what is needed in this community, not to separate people out. It's to make sure that we know for sure what is sorely needed in our community and get this money out as soon as possible. Again, we're not entitled to keep the money. It's not the county's money. We do have some expenses we have incurred. We are, again, looking for other funding sources to offset those costs. And we know we've all suffered dearly since the beginning of March. So again, when you fill out, I think the most challenging part of the assessment will probably be estimating from this point forward through December. But we have an obligation to report back to DCED beginning in September on a monthly basis of those expenditures. So I'm sure that big first number will be a huge one from March through June that we report to DCED. But then again, it'll probably be monthly increments as we go through the balance of the year. Again, projection through the end of the year, this money no longer is available by December 30th. So I wanted to just reemphasize some of the things with people listening and viewing today. So I think we're at the conclusion of the presentation. If we have any questions, we'd certainly love to field them from you now. Jesse, any questions?
Hi, Commissioner Barnhart. We have one comment so far from Microsoft Teams. Stephanie Shirk from the Penn State Extension, Berks County. She says, "Hi, Commissioners," in parentheses, "no need to make this comment visible. I was planning to ask about county/GRCA providing PPE kits for businesses similar to how Lancaster, Chester, and Delco have started to implement. Extension has been a collaborator to get word and kits to the ag community. I was not aware of the discrepancy in CARES Act's funds for Berks. Thank you for sharing this info and including these details in your updates. I really appreciate the detail. If we can help with reaching the ag community, please do not hesitate to reach out." And
that's something I guess we're going to do right away, aren't we? Make the connection. Good, good.
That is the only comment from Microsoft Teams.
Okay. Anyone else out there watching, listening that would like to provide a question? We're certainly here for the next few minutes. Okay. I don't think we answered all the questions, but we know we will be answering questions as we move forward. With that, if there are any other comments or questions of the assembled group here today, whether Ron or Matt or Steve or Justin have any other comments that we may have missed in this presentation, please feel free to do so. Anyone have anything to offer? Okay. Hearing no other comments from the selected group and no questions, we will end this Microsoft Teams meeting, and we do appreciate everyone's participation, and good luck in the assessment and good luck in the future. Thank you.